Clark Lance,
Here.
Reed Campbell,
Here.
Tom Hagelin,
Here.
Sue Kern,
Here.
Ruth Nelson,
Here.
Bob Nystrom,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Nystrom, are you ready? I'm ready. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And of course, we'll continue with our virtual meetings this evening. On our agenda, there was a slight change to number 5, an addition of number 10, and a slight addition to a presentation by Tim and Heidi when we get to the superintendent's report. So those are the changes to the agenda.
I so move approval with the changes.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Campbell, second by Director Kern for approval of the amended agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda approved. Next up will be public input, and again, via our communications website. Corey Reynolds will read those. Just a reminder as well that we do keep because we can't have the live interaction, we do keep the 3-ring binder that all communication pieces are in. So at any time, if anybody wants to come in and view those, you certainly can.
Okay. This email came from Doug Kern. It says, I am concerned about a new term we have called mask shaming. I've watched for years the health issues associated with not being able to breathe and never understood until it became personal. Many nights I would listen to my loved ones struggling to breathe and would think, my God, how can she live like that? Have seen many emergency room visits praying we can get there in time. My main concern is not just violations of HIPAA laws by administrator staff who did not understand the laws, but the shaming into wearing anything that restricts breathing precious oxygen. If this shaming happens with administration staff, how will a student with similar breathing problems be dealt with? Students who have anxiety, other health issues, or mental health issues. Will they be required to wear a badge saying exempt and why they are exempt, which is again a violation of HIPAA laws, which are punishable by more than $100 or just a termination. In the governor's mandate on the Minnesota Department of Health website, it is written, people exempted from the face covering requirement. People who have medical or other health conditions, disabilities, or mental health, developmental, or behavioral needs that make it difficult to tolerate wearing a face cover. Any person who has trouble breathing, is unconscious, sleeping, incapacitated, or is otherwise unable to remove the face covering without assistance. People at their workplace when wearing to the person or others as determined by local, state, or federal regulations or workplace safety guidelines. I know the face covering mandate will be a challenge to deal with. I do not know where government starts and personal responsibility ends any more than most of you. But there are laws designed to protect vulnerable people from being shamed into a corner. Those laws need to be reviewed and understood. As adults in the room, we have a voice. What voice will vulnerable children be given? I have heard it said, if you can't wear a mask, just stay home, which is another form of shaming, as obviously doing what mom always said, wash your hands and do not touch your face, doesn't prevent germs being spread as much as a mask. If adults can't comprehend health laws and laws associated with mask wearing, how do we expect children to? It will be a challenging year for everyone as we are all in this together, but those with underlying conditions get a double dose of all in it together. Thank you for your time, Doug Kern.
Thank you, Corey. Okay, we'll look for approval of our August 6th minutes.
I would so move to approve the minutes for the special school board meeting on August 6th.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Kern, second by Director Nelson for approval of our special school board meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up would be approval of our August 10th regular school board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Nystrom, second by Director Campbell for approval of the August 10th regular school board meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Number 7 is our consent calendar approval.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Kern for approval of consent calendar. Any discussion? Not, those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up will be our presentation updates on our building project from ICS. Damien, are you there?
I am.
All
Can you
right.
hear me?
Yes.
Hang on 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, so here is our bond improvements update for August 24th, 2020. We're gonna start with Scott Whitmore with the high school.
All right, as most of you noticed, driving by the north parking lot is been milled overlay, striping is down, working on exterior concrete. We're maintaining a small ramp going into Area 2 auditorium because we still got some internal footings, foundations that need to be done there. Moving into the building, the exterior of the building, the fence is up on the west end to the DCD drop. That drive lane is in, everything there is operational. They just have to set a few light posts and that area will be complete. The exterior metal wall panel, we're down to just the far east side of the building. We're working on the last remaining sidewalk sections that go in off of 5th Street there. And that will complete the entrance to the Performing Arts Center. Inside areas 1 and 3, the upper level and the main level, we're just down to punch list. District staff's been moving a lot of the furniture in and getting those classrooms set up. So that's going really well. We're doing the test and balance right now of all the air handling, or correction, rooftop units. Area 2, there's really been no change. We are laying rebar mats down. Once the rebar mats are down in the upper balcony, we'll be able to lay out all of the balcony seating rough-ins. And once that's complete, then we'll start pouring. And we're looking to do that within the next week to 2 weeks. Yeah, and that's the same with balcony there. Area 5, we are completing finishes. The cafeteria is completely gridded out. They're just working on their seal coat for the terrazzo in the cafeteria. We've got the MDH, Minnesota Department of Health, inspection on the 27th of August, and looking to turn the kitchen, the cafeteria over on the 31st. Area 6, paint's up, grid's in, working on, well, grid is 98% in, just working on our finishes in that area, getting ready to turn over the week of the 31st. Area 7 is following in very much the same fashion as well as Area 8. So we are looking to hand over those areas the week of the 31st. Any questions?
Scott, when you say that you're handing it over, is it going to be cleaned and ready to go so that our teachers can get in there and get their work done?
That's correct. Because it is all one kind of continuous terrazzo flooring, so it'll be concrete floor, but all other finishes will be there. I shouldn't say, let me rephrase that. Thin brick will be going on at a later date, as will the terrazzo floors, because they're kind of tied in together. But other than that, they'll be complete.
Hey, Scott, how about the, what's the status of the pool pit and ramp?
Yep, they should have. So the pool is part of the, on the south side of the building next to Quinn Street, you'll notice there's a new transformer there. That's where we're bringing the 480 power in. We just needed to get the 480 over to it so we can turn the circulation pumps on, because right now we have no power to that pump room. So Holden is committed to having it done for us by the 28th, which would mean the 31st practice could resume in the pool.
Okay, and I guess I was referring more to the new pool, the ramp that we have to build and the,
They'll start digging it this week, 27th, actually. They're gonna start doing our tiebacks. 'Cause every 8 feet that we go down on that short piling, we have to tie back and underpin to the soil. So that will start on the 27th.
okay, thank you.
I saw the parking lot earlier. It's, a surprise. It's much larger, the north parking lot than I would have thought. It's really nice.
And I can't
Yeah, it
believe
turned out really well. It's been a struggle to keep people off it, but everybody sees a nice new car and they want to go park on it right away for some
Well,
reason.
you didn't want me on there.
Yeah.
I
Any other
can't
questions?
believe- I can't
If not, I'll
believe
move
I'm
into
saying
South
this,
Campus
but,
here.
whoop.
Design development, so what you're looking at is kind of the 3D rendering, layout of the new building space there in the remodel. We've run into a couple of structural, issues that we're working through right now, so we're anticipating a design development completion date of September 11th. And then once we get to that point, we'll also review, the finishes that we're, suggesting go into this building, because they will deviate from the district standards slightly because this is a level 4 facility. So we'll get together and review them here in the next oversight committee meeting, hopefully. And we're working on the playground design as well. Any questions for South Campus?
Scott Reed had a question on North Campus.
No, I was just gonna mention that I can't believe I'm saying this, but the trees look great being gone at the front entrance of the high school. I think it
I
looks
agree.
really sharp. Yeah, it looks very nice. But
Looks really
the
good.
trees are gone.
Yeah, once we do the Fifth Street work, there will be some boulevard trees going down the center island.
Yeah, yeah.
So it'll really change it up, but that will be sometime in 2022.
Looks sharp.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, next we'll have Justin wanting to join us on New Baxter.
Good evening, everyone. The sound's really coming choppy on my end. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, Baxter Elementary, we're working on this list items. Actually, tomorrow we'll have the kitchen training, and furniture install is kind of continuous or mainly done, and we're making progress on gym number 2. We're in the roughing stage right now with gym number 2, so a lot of changing out there. It's really looking nice and on the right track.
Okay,
You want to give us something on this one?
Nisswa Elementary, I have partial occupancy here, but we received the temp certificate of occupancy besides the kitchen, meaning the entire facility will be used by staff. So right now, we're able to move in the classrooms, and a good chunk of the area, we do have full occupancy. So we completed the punch list. I'm just wrapping up some loose ends, or not completed the punch list. We generated the punch. We're working with that. Loose ends. Working in the kitchen and just wrapping up all final inspection. The furniture install is supposed to start tomorrow, actually. So, we're okay on this one. Any questions?
Justin, I have a question. A concern was brought to my attention today that it just, that Nisswa right now just does not look ready to go as far as cleanliness and everything for our staff to be able to come in here and to do all the hard work that they've got to do this fall. When can they expect that it's going to be finished and clean, and we are, our staff know that that's taken care of for them?
Lane, so it did come in choppy. I didn't hear everything you said, so hopefully I can still address the question. We are working to having full occupancy on Monday, the whole facility. We have been working directly with Molly, and and staff to make sure we're able to meet the scheduled needs. And so far, we're tracking to be able to meet all of the needs.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, then Warrior Early Learning Center.
Yeah, Warrior Early Learning Center. Yeah, we're working on some middles, and we are moving towards planning on starting towards the end of September. So, not a lot more to discuss on Warrior Early Learning Center at this time.
Okay?
All right. Harrison Elementary, exterior site work is ongoing, including landscaping and fencing. Mechanical and electrical plumbing rough-ins are complete. Painting in the lower level and touch-ups throughout. Ceiling pads are being installed in the lower level and the first floor. Tiling installation at the stairs are nearing completion. Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing finishes are being installed. Casework is being installed. Flooring in the lower level is ongoing. Terrazzo is complete. Toilet partitions and accessories are being installed. Classroom accessories are being installed, and final cleaning is ongoing. They're currently working upstairs on the third level, and they're working their way down. Lots of work's being put in place. We did have a delay in materials for the casework due to COVID. We've gotten that accelerated a week, so we actually got the material on site today. So those are getting installed rapidly, and a lot of hard work. A lot of people are working really hard on that site right now to get things ready to go. We will have temporary occupancy on Friday, so the teacher will be able to work in that school on the 31st, and then we'll have final occupancy later that week. We will be on site still doing work in commons areas and mechanical rooms and boilers and that kind of thing, but all in all, it's coming together. Any questions on Harrison? Yeah. Garfield, exterior site work is ongoing, including landscaping and fencing. Exterior brick is ongoing. Roofing for phase 1 is complete. Mechanical and electrical plumbing rough-ins are nearing completion. Painting throughout, ceiling installation throughout, tiling installation throughout, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing finishes are being installed. Flooring throughout is ongoing. Toilet partitions and accessories are being installed. Classroom accessories are also being installed. I was on the site this afternoon, and Eric Baker and Kyle and Walter are doing a great job of keeping everyone motivated, and they're going to be also receiving that temporary CO on Friday in time for the teachers to move it on the 31st. Any questions on Garfield?
No?
All right, Mark Tatum is on, and he'll do a quick update on Lowell.
Good evening, everyone. So the update for Lowell, if you can see in the picture there, the building to the right is the classroom tower, and the one in that's the gym, just to give you a little bit of frame of reference. So we've completed the roof decking and started the roof blocking at the new gym, so that roofing system's getting started here later this week. We'll have rubber membrane on it then. Overhead, we've started topsoil at the west entrance and sidewalks. We've done cleanup over there. And other areas that we're working in is the classroom tower. We're starting stuff framing and MET, rough-ins, overhead, mid wall. By MET, I mean mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Get those trades going and get some rough-in done in there. And then the other big activity that we have coming up this week is we have the slab on grade for the gym and the admin area. Great. Any questions about Bull? Okay, here we finished the gym in 4%. Admin based all together and ready to use, and tier time's ready to go. hats off to the team that pulled that together. Other activities that we have going on, the concrete slab in the new gym was tied into the classrooms, so I'll have on great activities over there. Roofing system are in place, so we're wrapping up that gym. Wrapping up ESD.
Hey, Mark,
That's going on as well as some exterior equipment here that's
Mark, we're not picking you up very well.
Sorry about that. 30,000 foot view enclosure systems are coming together on Riverside very nicely, and the interior of the space is also for the remodel. Any questions?
Nope.
That was the end of our presentation. Any questions at all?
Damien, I have a question. I've heard that some of the building materials have been delayed in delivery. Will that affect anything about school activities once school starts on September 8th?
No. No, we've done a really good job of working with, we've had some doors and door hardware issues that we've been working through, and casework, some of the fin tube, radiant fin tube, and we've managed to be able to secure everything and have everything come timely so we can be open for school.
Great.
All right.
We definitely have had some challenges, but all in all, from a few weeks ago, I think things are looking really, really good. So we all have a good plan in place. The contractors are, one of the things, we have 200 to 300 of the finest tradesmen in the Brainerd Lakes area working on our projects, right? And we've had an interesting challenge. A lot of these contractors are working on multiple projects, and we're sharing resources and trying to prioritize work and different things. We've definitely had our share of challenges, but all in all, everybody's got a good. Everybody sees the goal at the end of the light at the end of the tunnel, I'll say. So.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yep, you too. All right, we'll move right into our new business for action items, starting with number 1, which is our election of school board members. Superintendent Larson, did you?
Yep, no, I have a resolution attached in the agenda here that has all of the candidates who are running. As you can see, we have 8 people running for 3 positions, and so it's important that we get approval of these candidates and what the ballot will look like come November 3rd. And I will recommend approval.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Nystrom, second by Director Nelson for approval of the slate of candidates for school board elections. Any discussion?
Yes, actually, I do have something.
Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to thank Reed Campbell, who has decided to go off. He is our senior member, 17 years. For many of you in the community, you know who Reed is, and he's just a great person who just tries to represent people and do the best for students and the community. And it's just been an honor to serve with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
So thanks, Reed.
Thank you, but you're not leaving yet. So.
No.
Got you till the end of the year.
We got some time yet, so.
I'll be around.
All right, good, thank you.
But I agree. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, if no further discussion, we'll have roll call.
Reed Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Haglund,
Yes?
Sue Kern,
Yes.
Ruth Nelson.
Yes.
Bob Nystrom,
Yes.
Charles Blacklands,
Yes.
all in favor?
Thank you, motion passes. Next up is number 2, approval of resolution and giving authority to Mr. Murtha. Tim?
Good evening. The individual official with authority is a categorization with Minnesota Department of Education. I'm the gatekeeper for how people access how data moves between secure data moves between the district and MDE. So I'm responsible for monitoring who has permissions, who needs permissions, who no longer needs permissions. This is an annual event that we do every year.
I so move approval of a resolution to identify the official with authority as Mr. Tim.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Campbell, second by Director Kern for approval. Any discussion? Not, roll call?
Tom Haglund,
Yes?
Sue Kern,
Yes.
Ruth Nelson,
Yes.
Bob Nystrom,
Yes.
Charles Black Lance,
Yes,
Reed Campbell.
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. Motion passes. Next up is approval of resolution for up to 5 EL Learning Days, as Mr. Murtha will present.
I have submitted to you the e-learning days plan, which would permit us to not have snow days for up to 5 incidents during the school year. And the language is actually written that 5 incidents where there's an interruption to on-site learning during the school year, because that's the maximum that we can provide. So in essence, what we're doing is gaining protection against having snow days extend the school year. So the plan has to be approved by the school board as it's written, with any suggested edits you may have. The plan has to be approved by the school board, and then that allows us then to amend the schedule and then also to no longer have to have snow days or days where learning's interrupted, up to 5 per year. I think I said that right.
And I'd like to add, if it's all right, that as the Board of Education approved the one-to-one technology, particularly when it went all the way from K to 12, and we've implemented distance learning prior last spring, and we know that we're ready to do it again this year. We really look at this as a fortunate way to adjust our calendar in the future, and we saw no reason not to do it this year. Especially when we're getting out of school a little bit early. We knew days were tight this year for us anyway to meet the obligations of the law. And so when we approved the elementary computers, I asked Tim to please do the work with the State Department to see to it what it would take for us to be able to use those days as e-learning days rather than a snow day or a mud day or whatever it gets, it gets called to because of an emergency that we can't predict. And so Tim has done that work, and all we need is board authority in order to approve it. If approved, what it will do, and you'll see later in the agenda, we're going to look at the calendar that we've already approved. But we have 2 days in the calendar already that are known kind of as holidays during the school year, and they would be classified as that, and we just wouldn't have snow days. So we think that it's a wonderful way for us to better use our days with our children.
K through 5, because they're going to be in school all day, are they going to have their computers at home with them?
Yes, they would. They'd be able to take them home with them. There still has to be some anticipation of the event that's going to occur. And the other piece is everyone should still create work in advance that goes home in backpack and then gets refreshed as the school year goes on. So it's not going to be just solely an e-learning day, depending on what kind of notice we have. I think that our experience in distance learning, teachers are going to be looking for us to give them that guidance that, hey, okay, I have no idea whether it's going to snow tomorrow or not, so send them home. Send the machines home with them. And for those who may have been absent that day, they would already have work at home for them. So it's just a bit of an organizational challenge for us to do that. One that the elementary teachers are very good at fulfilling.
And that's a great question, because we did talk to about some of our littlest learners in particular about having like a learning packet that they can have at home, and should a snow day happen or whatever, that they have those extra materials that they can work on at home and then bring them back when they come back to school. And so we've been talking about that. Right now, we're just looking at getting the school year started.
So there'll be more fleshed out planning.
Yeah, we'll have a lot more fleshed out by October, when hopefully that would be the soonest that we would have snow or something like that occur, so.
how does the faculty look at this? What were their responses to the?
Oh, I think that you're going to see a recognition of the value of it in terms of making more static the school calendar. Nobody likes to come back in June, teacher or child. So creating a more structured, creating a more higher probability that will end on time. That also means that planning can be done with more confidence, particularly in the midst of construction that we're doing right now, where every single day in the summer matters. So not having to do that. Also, so on that grounds, there's good buy-in. There is going to be a mourning period for the loss of the snow day culture for both staff and students. It is a long cherished tradition in Minnesota that you enjoy a snow day, that they sometimes happen. And all of us had our routines as a teacher, check in the office by 9, do a little paperwork and then meet the boys or the coaches or whatever you're going to do. Okay, and the kids have their fun too in the snow. So there's going to be a little bit of loss for that. So I think that it goes both ways. But I honor that there's a loss, but I think in terms of sustaining the continuity of learning and the structured schedule that we can anticipate and plan around, that's the value. And I think they believe it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is a good step, although I'm hoping my children aren't listening right now.
Yeah, I think I may have broken a few hearts with this one.
All right, thank you, Tim.
I'll move the approval of the resolution for up to 5 e-learning days as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Blacklands for approval of up to 5 e-learning days as presented. Any further discussion? Not, in favor say aye.
Aye.
Whoop, hang on one second, we're gonna do a roll call, sorry about that.
Sue Curran,
Yes.
Ruth Nelson,
Yes.
Bob Nystrom,
Yes.
Charles Blacklands,
Yes.
Reed Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Haglund,
Yes,
all in favor.
thank you, motion passes. Next up is item number 4, Mr. Murtha.
This item, I believe, is the modification of the district calendar for special education teachers. In this year's calendar for 2021, there are 5 days identified as non-instructional at the end of the calendar. 2 are intended for the purpose of moving, for construction-related moves, 2 for site-level staff development, and then 1 district staff development day. The special education teachers are faced with an unusual and unexpected expectation of work that must be completed by September 18th in support of hybrid education. In essence, they need to go and redo their IEPs to what are now called CLPs, the contingency learning plans. And this constitutes possibly up to 2 hours per member on a case. So this is not a small task that they've been given by the state, and they've been given no extra time to do it. So what we're asking for is that they be allowed to compensate 16 hours of work before the 18th of September against the 2 moving days or 2 PD days, depending on whether their building's moving or not in the spring. So they would fulfill the same number of hours in a contract year as any other teacher. We're front-loading for them 16 hours and then giving them time back in the spring.
And actually, we're already doing that with some of our staff at BHS, our staff at Nisswa, Harrison, and the new Baxter Elementary School. They're using those days up front. But we're also finding that Garfield and Riverside had some of those needs as well, and so we'll talk about that as we go forward. But then this expectation came of our special education teachers where they didn't know how they were to get all of these IEPs, have these team meetings, and get everything changed prior to school starting when teachers aren't on contract at this point. And so we just thought that this was a great way of being able to accommodate them somewhat. And honestly, it's going to work either way, whether it's before school or after school. And we just really appreciate the flexibility that the union has been working with us in all of these things that have come up as well. And we think it would be a great thing to do for our special education staff.
I so move approval of the resolution to modify up to 16 hours of staff development for special ed teachers as presented.
Second?
Thank you. Motion by Director Campbell, second by Director Blacklands for approval. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ruth Nelson,
Yes.
Bob Nystrom,
Yes.
Charles Blacklands,
Yes.
Reed Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Haglund,
Yes.
Sue Kern,
Yes.
all in favor.
Thank you. Next up is item number 5, resolution amending the 2021 school calendar.
This is the bow on the package that pulls it all together. So embedded in this are two elements of a resolution. And what the first one does is it converts and confirms that February 15th and April 5th are no longer snow makeup days. They will be left as school holidays as they're currently marked. The second part confirms that the special ed teachers have the ability to flex their time prior to the 18th of September to do their CLP work, and that we've expanded the list of sites who can move 2 of their days for moving reasons to the beginning of the school year. So the total list now would be Harrison, Nisswa, Baxter, the high school, and some staff at Garfield and Riverside, depending on who's affected specifically by the construction. So we're just dotting the I and crossing the T on who's allowed to move this time and to ensure that we fulfill our contract obligations, but also provide flexibility in lieu of both the combination of construction and COVID.
There's 2 other pieces. One is that you'll notice on the revised calendar, there's a little blue box on the right-hand side that verifies that we're allowing up to 5 e-learning days. So that is on the calendar as well. And in June, we did keep the 3 snow makeup days on the calendar, but that's only if we have 6, 7, and 8 snow days. And if that happens, the legislature might help us out anyway. So we contemplated just pulling it off, and then we said, well, we'll leave them on there, but most likely we won't use them. And honestly, like you said a little bit ago, with construction, we need to have people off campus at that time so that we can finish our last summer construction season.
I would so move to approve the resolution amending the 2020-21 school year calendar as presented.
Second?
Thank you. Motion by Director Kern, second by Director Blacklands for approval of the calendar, amendment to the calendar as presented. Any discussion? I wonder, would there be any benefit to dropping that June snow days just so that there's no question for
Confusion.
our building contractors?
We can certainly do that. I'm sure that if we'd have to, we'd adjust the calendar later on, but I just think if we had 6, 7, 8 snow days, it'd be like it was a couple of years ago, and they would help us out with that. So I'd be happy to take that off if the board's okay with that. Okay.
Probably should have an amendment to our motion
Yep.
then if we wanted to do that. So-
Correct.
Yep, okay. I would so move to approve the resolution amending the 2020-2021 school year calendar as presented, minus the last 3 days, June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
Sorry,
Second.
Hmm?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Director Kern, second by Director Blacklands for, and I'm going to follow Roberts here, but to make an amendment to the original motion. Any further discussion to that? Not, those in favor say aye. Whoops, roll call, sorry. Well, we'll just do a roll call, or a non-roll call, verbal vote here, and then we're going to come right back to the roll call on the main motion.
Correct.
So all those in favor say aye.
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 Pose same sign. Motion, amendment passes. Next up then will be a roll call on the original motion that was presented. Can I?
Bob Nystrom,
Yes.
Charles Blacklands,
Yes,
Reed Campbell,
Yes.
Tom Hagelin.
Yes.
Sue Kern,
Yes.
Ruth Nelson.
Yes.
All in favor.
Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Tim.
Chairman Hagan, could I just ask a quick question? When there's that type of a vote, what toggles, what makes that when do we have to vote on for a roll call vote?
If there's a
What makes it a
resolution.
roll, just so I can understand.
When there's a roll call vote, you mean?
I'm
There's,
just trying to understand how I know when.
Janet
it's-
says we have to.
well, yeah, I mean, there's some debate on that, and so
okay.
no, so we've gone under, if there's a resolution, that then we've gone to a roll call vote. Sometimes if you look, it's a roll call would be used if it's an unknown, if you do a roll call, if you don't do a roll call, but a verbal count, but it's not well known to what that is, or if you think it's going to be potentially a split. But anytime we've had a resolution, we've always done a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Good question, thank you.
There are times I'm required to bring resolutions to the board in terms of what statute requires. So there's a difference between board action and resolution.
Okay, thank you.
And then it actually becomes a signed form resolution.
Okay, next up will be number 6, which is approval of policy, it's the second and final reading of policy 903. This is.
Am I up?
Yep.
Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me. Hi, online here. So in the packet attached to the agenda is the second reading of policy 903. The first reading that was that we had last board meeting, the concern that Director Blacklands brought up is this a place where a flag or other clothing, hats, or anything like that that may cause safety concerns would be restricted, or that we would put language in there that would put some guidelines around what is allowable to protect the safety and health of all of our staff, students, and volunteers, and the public in our facilities. And so I understand that there's a couple other policies following here that are going to talk about dress code and appearance, and also harassment and violence. So there was a sentence that was added into this policy that talks about that, about those adherence to those policies. And then there was another sentence that's second from the bottom added in that says abusive language and or conduct endangering the health and safety of students, staff, or other volunteers is prohibited. So those were the two additions to this policy from the first reading that would constitute the policy moving forward.
I'd move to approve the second and final reading of the addendum to policy 903.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Nystrom, second by Director Campbell for approval of second and final reading of policy 903. Any discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you, Reed.
Next up is item number 7, second and final reading of policy 806.
Okay, there were no comments or revisions made to the first reading, so it would be as presented last time.
Okay, I move to approve of the approval of the second and final reading of MSBA policy number 806, crisis management policy as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Blackland, second by Director Kern for approval of policy 806 as presented. Any further discussion? Not those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up is item number 8, approval of the second and final reading of policy 524, which is the internet acceptable use and safety policy. And any,
Sarah?
I don't see Sarah on, but I can confirm with this one. We had no comments, no objections to any pieces of the acceptable use policy. And so I would recommend the second and final reading of this policy tonight and approval by the Board of Education.
Lane, I just had one question. 2 weeks ago, I asked if TikTok would be not accessible to the kids. You know, it's a new site that young people use, and it's questionable.
Justin, do you know the answer to that? I haven't had any conversation with her about it.
I do not know the answer to that at this time, but I can try and get the answer for you.
Okay. Sarah said she was gonna address it.
Should we table it, and could you give her a quick call maybe, and would that work, and come back to that?
Sure.
Would that work for you?
Well,
That's-
maybe what is the, you're looking to make sure that it's not accessible, is that?
Correct.
So are you wanting to not have access to the app, which is TikTok, or like TikTok videos on YouTube? Because, for example, my children, we don't allow them a TikTok account, but they have access to TikTok on YouTube. And I thought Sarah had said something about being able to stop YouTube, but I can't remember, I guess.
Okay. So it's the app that's causing all the problems?
Well, it's the app that allows you to have other outside influences on it. YouTube, watch TikTok videos on YouTube.
Okay.
And it's safer, I guess, but so my question was just which part were you wanting not to have? Were you wanting not to have access to TikTok altogether?
That's what I was thinking.
Or TikTok, the part
Yeah.
where if Reed and I wanted to make a TikTok video, we could.
There's that distribution,
Oh.
so I know it's crazy out there, so I don't know. She's not answering her phone
Yeah,
right now.
that's fine.
Yeah.
What do you think about
And Can I say one thing about
Yeah.
TikTok?
Yeah.
And then,
Why don't you sit
Get to a
here?
mic,
Okay.
Justin.
Yeah, we have microphones, Justin.
Okay. Just so that you know, there is some transition going on with TikTok as well. I'm not saying that it's not gonna be blocked. We do not have the app available on any of our stores at all. And like Charles said, in YouTube, it's kinda hard to block that part of it. But Microsoft bought TikTok, so things are going to be changing there, I'm sure, a lot. Just so you guys know that that is something, I know you're concerned about it, there's a lot of concern, so.
Okay, but the
Yes.
app itself,
The app itself,
they don't have.
it's not in any of our stores. So we have our own stores set up, for ISD 181, on iPads for early childhood and in the Chrome Web Store. So they're all blocked, and they can only get to certain apps inside of the Google Play Store as well for the new tablets, so,
Okay.
all right?
And then if you find things that are unacceptable, you guys can go in there and block them at any time, right?
Yes, we
So,
can.
And you do that regularly anyway?
Yes, we do that very regularly,
Yeah.
so.
And Charles, since your kids watch the YouTube videos, they must be okay to watch.
Well, they have good ones, like my daughter was showing me Christian TikTok where they have a young gal does summaries of biblical stories, so we were watching that on the dinner table the other night, so TikTok in itself, like some of the videos aren't bad, you just always have to monitor.
Okay.
It's the app that we don't allow.
Okay.
But to
It's
have
kind
a-
of like YouTube is generally, you have to monitor. Yeah.
That's satisfactory.
Does that, okay,
Yeah.
good. Good question, though. Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Thanks for,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay, is there a motion to
I
approve?
so move to approve a second and final reading of policy 524 on internet acceptable use and safety policy as presented.
I second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Campbell, second by Director Blacklands for approval of policy 524. Any further discussion? Not those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 9 is up next, approval of our 2021 Security Officers Service Agreement. Marcy Lord is here.
Hi. In your packet is the agreement itself.
The rate last year was 2042, so it is a 4% increase. However, they did add additional wording so that we can be more flexible if we are in hybrid or distance learning. So for example, with us starting out at hybrid, they will not be here on Wednesdays, and Andrea is okay, or Mrs. Rusk is okay with that. So it is an increase, however, with the decrease of Wednesday, it's overall a decrease, if that math checks out.
So it's an hour, because it's an hourly.
Correct, correct.
And
And
is
the
this the same number of security agents?
2.5, yep.
Okay, so we only have half the number of students in any day.
Mhm. They, she did still want the 2.5, and Mrs. Rusk did. She did not want any changes to that.
Because? That's a good point.
Mhm.
I mean, we have a tight budget this year, so.
Yeah, we really do.
Mhm.
Just trying to think, if we came back in person, though, we'd be there 5
Yeah.
days a week.
Yeah.
So would that
Correct.
change the, would they be here 5 days then?
Correct, correct. I can go back and check with Andrea if she'd want to renegotiate that. It's just, the timing of it is, you know, we're starting school before the next board meeting, which is one of the next items we're going to talk about.
Well, and I think part of the issue too might be, we can't just say, okay, we're gonna go to 2 instead of 2.5, because our most recent hired person is a full-time. So they couldn't go and just cut a half a position or something like that because of how that works with contracts within the police department, but,
This isn't the police department, is it?
No, this is,
isn't this with the
this is
city?
GSSC, General Security Services.
Oh,
Yep.
sorry.
No,
got
it's
it.
okay.
Oh, I think,
He did say the reason why, because we did talk about 2%, that's what we get from the state, and he did say that, you know, the lowest they could do was 4% because of the training and staff turnover. So I think part of it is just the cost to have staff on and then off again.
Yeah, and I'm not concerned as much about that as if we have half the number of students. I know it's the same area in the building, so
Right.
I just, if it's a place we could save some money in the short term.
yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure how, because it's the same square footage, you know, if you could just,
Correct.
it might be challenging to say, well, we should only need half as much service, and then, you know, what happens if we're 30 days into it and we
Yeah.
add Wednesdays, or we get back to every day? I like the idea of saving money.
Me too.
But I just wonder with. and
Can
I-
we, so we don't have another board meeting? I mean, I think can we approve it for the first month and look at it?
I could always, if you guys want to say, you know, approve it pending review of FTE, and then I could confirm with Andrea if we could decrease the FTE.
Yeah, and I don't know, you know, when you think about, from a safety standpoint, if, you know, stress levels are a little bit higher these days, and I don't know if that influences the need for the service, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly where, I think, did it say in here where these, like it's lunchtime?
They do parking lot, lunchtime. I believe that they're just around if Andrea or any of the admin team, you know.
Because we still have a police officer liaison there
Correct.
too.
Correct.
I think it's something that we need to understand a little bit more about.
Is there any reason why we, and again, it's up to you guys, but that we couldn't table this? Because we have a board meeting the first Monday after school starts, so it would just be 4 days, which is 3 student days at the high school. It would be Tuesday, and it would be Thursday and Friday. And then we would we would already know by that time and you could go back and negotiate with them
Okay.
and just see if they think they need to, and if they do, then you can justify why.
Yeah.
So,
And see what the principal's ideas was on it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay? All right, then we'll move into number 10, which authorizes Director of Business Service and Superintendent of Schools to work with legal counsel to execute an athletic training service agreement.
So we started discussing this year's agreement back in January with Essentia. We had several meetings, and then, as you all know, COVID happened. And along with that came some transition at Essentia. So we received an agreement today that provides for free athletic services as a community benefit to ISD 181 in exchange for marketing opportunities. Legal has not had time to review. However, we did have athletics start last week, and so we would like the board's approval to execute a one-year agreement rather than presenting at the next board meeting, because Essentia cannot operate without an agreement in place. And like I said, the activities started last week, so we'd like to get that executed as soon as possible.
and if you remember in January, we had brought to your attention that we were asking for a few more items on this contract, and we were working with them at that time, and then everything happened, which has been really difficult on healthcare as well. So really what they're offering us at this time is the same package that we've had before. We pay the same $15,000 towards it.
No fee.
Oh, there'd be
Yep,
no fee. Oh,
no
that's
fee.
changed then
Yep.
today.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they, originally, to get this executed, we were gonna present a contract that was exactly like last year's. However, their legal was able to push it through and get us something today that was basically a no fee, as long as we allow for marketing that is in our policy, or per board approval, and then there would be no fee.
So they'd have like a sign that said, health services provided by
Yes,
Essentia.
exactly.
I like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot better, because as
Yes.
of last week, it was the exact thing that we had, and even at that point, we were pretty comfortable with that, because we know that they've had tough times too.
Mhm. Right.
And so, but we would like to have an RFP next year and just see if, what that might look like. And so we'd like to just do a 1 year at this time, and then hopefully things settle down in the spring, so we can do that.
So are we still gonna get legal counsel involved, or?
Yes, so
Still
he
on?
has the contract, he was not able, he had some feedback that he would like adjusted before we sign.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to authorize the Director of Business Services and Superintendent to work with legal counsel to execute an athletic training services agreement as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Blacklands for approval. As presented, any further discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy. Next up is approval of second and final reading of policy 413, harassment and violence policy. Hi, Angie.
Hello. So I'm excited to spend a little more time with me tonight. The two that are up, so we're talking about harassment and violence policy, that is in relation to the changes to Title IX. Just to kind of remind you of what those changes were relating to, based on kind of the feedback from last week. There were no recommended changes at that point, so this would be just kind of an opportunity to relook at that and see if we want to move forward or not.
I so move approval of the second and final reading of policy 413, harassment and violence policy, as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Campbell, second by Director Nystrom for second and final reading of policy 413. Any discussion? If not, those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up is item number 12, which is second and final reading of policy 522.
This policy, again, mimics a lot of the language that's in the harassment and violence policy, but it's more related to the student side of things. So, again, no recommended changes to that policy at this point, based on what we put on.
I'll move the second and final reading of MSBA Policy 522.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Nystrom, second by Director Kern for approval of second and final reading, Policy 522. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next up is item 13, second reading of Policy 431, dress code and appearance.
Again, no changes have been made to the policy since we reviewed it last time. And just another opportunity for you to review and see if there's any changes you'd like me to pursue.
I'll move the approval of the second reading of policy 431.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Campbell for second reading approval of Policy 431. Any discussion? Not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Item number 14 is approval of the second reading, Policy 808, face covering policy as presented previously.
Yep, I did make a slight change, two noted changes on this. I highlighted them on red, if you can look in your attachment. One was in relation to wearing face coverings in music related classes, playing instruments. There's an exemption in that. We added a line saying they may still be required. So if we're not able to, meet the strict social distancing, or there's another situation, it gives that flexibility for the teacher, the administrator to say, yep, we still need to wear a face covering. So it's going to be completely in relation to health and safety. It's, going to be, some circumstances may deem it necessary to have the mask. It was felt, so we added that line in there. And then on the cross references, I did add to that the dress code and appearance policy, just to link it back so that, we're still following the guidelines for the face coverings that we are in the dress code.
I had some comments about this policy 808. I'm just not really feeling like I can support this policy. The governor's mandate states that individuals with medical conditions need not wear face coverings. However, in policy 808, it talks about a person who had a physical problem would have to have a physician's note. And I know for a fact that Essentia Health will not write these notes. I've called twice, and they're just not doing it. So for that reason, I can't support this policy because I feel like it is just disrespecting people that have medical problems. And then to piggyback on top of that, I don't care for that you have, you're going to terminate people if they don't follow it, and or possibly a call will be made to law enforcement with a fine attached to it. I just think we're disrespecting our educational professionals and our staff as well. And I understand that with IEPs, kids will be covered with that, where they don't have to have a medical note because staff knows kind of what their issues are. And with the governor's mandate, I just don't feel like we need to adopt a policy like this. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to enforce with the students, and certainly not for the younger students. And I'm just really concerned about that. So I'm going to vote no.
I so move approval of the second reading of policy 808, face coverings policy as presented.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Director Campbell, second by Director Nystrom for approval of Policy 808. Any discussion, further discussion? Would like to thank you, Director Kern, for sharing your comments. Can you direct me, Angie, in this policy about the requirement of having basically a doctor's note? If they can't, if we have a staff member that is unable to wear,
The procedure is going to be for a staff member is if they are unable to wear a cotton mask because of a medical condition, then we're saying you can wear a face shield.
Yep.
If beyond that, if they can't wear a cotton mask or a face shield, it becomes an accommodation process. Every accommodation process requires medical certification in order to ensure that people are wearing or not wearing the face covering due to a legitimate reason rather than I can just come in and say I have a medical condition. I feel it is very much in line with the governor's order for face coverings, and a lot of language is taken directly from that order.
and where in our policy, the proposed policy, are we stating about the,
It's Roman numeral 5, letter D. About 2/3 of the way through the paragraph there for a physician's note. It says, as a condition to granting, excuse me, I can't read here. As a condition to granting a reasonable accommodation, the school district may require an individual to provide a physician's note and/or the relevant information or with respect to the condition or circumstance.
so is it fair to say that it isn't, because we're saying it may require, that it isn't mandatory?
Correct.
And that it's also indicates that it's by case by case?
Yep, all reasonable accommodations are made case by case.
And a face shield is an option
Yep.
for those.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think this is indicating, though, that even if a face shield,
Yeah, it's indicated, yeah, if you can't wear a mask or a face shield.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, a face shield is a lot less restrictive than a mask. so.
right, but I think this is, I think to Director Kern's point is, if, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Sue, that it's, if you can't wear either, is that what
Right.
you're?
That's what I'm referring
Yeah.
to, yes.
And what this is potentially saying is that there may require an individual to provide a physician's note, but it's not a mandatory.
Right.
And so how,
And this would be
Because there
highly
may be
con-
other certain situations. So we have a certain positions where if they're working with a one-to-one student doing an assessment, we can have a plexiglass barrier. If there's other accommodations that we can meet to protect the safety of both our students and our staff, we will work through those. If there's not, however, and we need to ask for medical certification because it's also affecting other people in the building, we will do so. That's why we want to make sure that we may require a physician certification, because if we have to ask the question, we want people to be aware that we're going to.
so as an example, if a teacher says that I can't in either case, then you would likely require that they,
Yep, depending on what their role is too
Sure.
in the building. If they're just sitting in an office by themselves doing computer work, I may not. Because that's also an exemption under the rule, that if you're not interacting with other people, you can remove your face covering. So what we're trying to avoid, though, is someone coming in saying, I have a medical condition, walking through all the buildings, and we just kind of let it happen, because then anybody can do that.
sure, sure.
And so we want to have some kind of protocol established so that people know what could possibly occur. That if you're not able to wear the face shield, we're not asking any questions. If somebody doesn't want to wear this, but they want to wear a face shield, we're not asking them anything because it's still covered under the guidance. We're letting them know it's not quite as safe as this, according to what we've been informed to do. But we also do have the requirement to adhere to the order. And so we're gonna need to do that.
Okay, thank you,
Mhm.
thank you. And I also, I know too that, part of the debate is we're also wanting to protect those that are
Yep.
vulnerable
Yep.
and the best that we can. So, okay, thank you for that.
Mhm.
And I think that we, you know, as a, as a organization, we're asking thousands of students to trust us that we're doing what's right and what's in line with what we're told that's what's right. And it's important that we have that accountability placed in our district to do so. I know as a parent of 3 children that are going to school here, it's really important to me that the school district has that appropriate accountability in place. This is about the safety of our children. This is the safety of my children that's at stake here. I
We're
support
getting
this.
that question every day,
Mhm.
several times a
And
day
other
about
staff.
what are you doing? Are you doing
Yeah.
enough to ensure the safety of our kids?
And we hear it from staff pretty much on a daily basis as well, because we do have a lot of those vulnerable staff members that are coming to work every day. And they're at high risk, so they want to ensure that we're protecting them as well as the students.
Thank you.
Well, I would have to add that there is a controversy on whether the face masks or shields are effective or not. I heard Dr. Fauci, who is at the federal level, who's giving advice to our president and people in authority, that they are not effective. They just make people feel better. But my argument is it doesn't make people feel better. I think it's upsetting.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, discussion? If not, those in favor of approving
808,
808.
number 14.
Thank you. Number 808, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1 vote. Next up is approval of annual review and the first reading of policy 410.
So the only change to this policy is including the language from the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which has allowed some ability for expanded FMLA leave in regard to the pandemic. So you will see towards the end of the policy some language directly referring to where this would apply. Currently, that act is only in place through the 31st of December. However, it's my guess it's going to get extended. And so I wanted to make sure we're putting in there. I did put a sentence following the end of the length of the protection in case they do expand it to a later date that were covered under the policy. And then when and if this does term and isn't in existence, we can take it back out. But wanted to make sure that people were aware that this is available. We have pushed it out several times to our staff, but thought that it was appropriate to put it in policy as well.
Very good, thank you.
I so move approval of annual review and first reading of MSA Policy 410, Family Medical Leave Policy.
I second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Campbell, second by Director Blacklands for approval of the first reading of policy 410. Any discussion? Not those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up and final action item is number 16, which is approval of ratification of the head cook's contract for 2021 and 21-22.
Yep. So this is exciting. So we met with the head cooks during all the busyness that has been going on, and we were able to meet with them on a couple different occasions. Great group to work with. They, as you know, are already on the high deductible health plan for their health insurance. So they've made that switch this last contract period, and we're on a 3-year contract or master agreement rotation. We are proposing that they go to a 2-year for this next term. Mostly so, to be quite honest, is to get one out of the rotation, so they're not all hitting on the same year. And so it allows us a little bit more breathing room, I guess, with meeting and contract negotiations. They agreed to that. We did not make any change to district contribution towards Plan G. So there is no increase to the district portion. I will note, however, in their last master agreement, they did already agree upon an increase for the 2021 school year. Wasn't here at that time, so I'm not sure kind of what the conversation was in regard to that. So we're still holding with that because we want to honor that decision that was made by the board and the group last time. But after that, we are not increasing the district contribution for 21-22. As far as other language within the master agreement, there was actually a significant amount of language cleanup because of the group kind of pulled away from the food service group. And so there was a lot of references back to the cooks. So we cleaned that all up to make this very much a head cook master agreement. So there were a lot of changes. However, they were pretty insignificant when you really looked at them because it was really just kind of dividing up the language between the two groups. They did land on, and they are an exempt group. They are salaried. However, as far as as they were computing things, they wanted it to be a dollar amount as far as the increase. So what we've tentatively agreed on is a 50-cent per hour increase for the first year and a 35-cent per hour increase for the second year.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move the approval of ratification of the head cook's contract for 2021 and 21-22 as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Director Nystrom, second by Director Nelson for approval of the head cook's contract as presented. Any discussion?
Just had a question on staffing of the cooks altogether. Are they gonna be fully staffed too for half the students there too? Or?
Yep, so we still have a lot of work to do outside of just the in-person food service because we also in hybrid, for those that are out, we still have to provide service to those students, and there is enough need for all the support at this point, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? If not, those in favor say aye.
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 Pose same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angie. All right, that concludes our actionable items. Next up will be information. We'll start with Director Campbell on the Brainerd Public Schools Foundation report in detail. A presentation I've heard
Yeah, I
you've
know, I
got.
don't have any notes either. But we did have our annual meeting and the change of the gavel, so Jenny Castle, boy, thank you. Jenny Castle is the new chair of the committee, and Jessica Hopajoki stepped down. She did a wonderful job. And they welcome 4 new members that have joined the group too the other day. And I don't have their names right handy, but 3 guys and a gal. So that group is now full, I think, of as far as how many members they can have. So we met outside at Prairie Bay and had a nice overview of the whole process of what goes on with the foundation, and they're again gearing up for the big event on what's going to happen there. I think they were talking about the run again too, the homecoming run, if they're going to do that virtual or cancel it or whatever. I think they're still working on that and decided. But again, with all the changes with COVID, their plans have had to make a bunch of changes, so they're working on that. And but again, had a great year last year, and looking forward to trying to come up with new ways on keeping things rolling. So.
Excellent, good, thank you. Next up, business service report. Marcy.
So in your board packet is an enrollment report. We just kind of wanted to give you guys an update based on what we had from the survey. So the first column, the green column, is how we ended May 1st of last year, our student counts. The blue column basically takes the green and rolls it forward, grade level progression. So if you were in kindergarten, you're now in first grade. And then the red or pinkish column, I guess, is what we have as of today. So you can see we're down, we went from 6,230 to 6,109. But I will be presenting in September what we had in the budget versus what we have for current enrollment, because this is changing every day. And it does not include BLC or LEC enrollment, which is a piece of our budget as well.
Or early childhood.
Exactly, exactly. And then that last column is just so you guys are aware of how many distance learners we have, and that is included in the pink column. I don't want you to think that's in addition to the pink. That's just a part of those numbers.
And that looks a little higher than we thought it was gonna be.
Mhm.
We've had a lot of people coming in just the last couple of days, open enrolling. And so it's going to be interesting to see over the course of the next couple of weeks. So we're hoping that we can even close that gap a little bit more, so.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great.
Marcy, so the blue again was what?
So you take the green and roll it forward, and then
Yeah.
I just plugged in for kindergarten, we had in our estimates 449.
So like kindergarten last year is first grade this year.
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
So it's just student numbers.
But what's the difference between the blue and the pink or whatever that goes?
So the pink is what we actually are seeing for enrollment as of today. What, who has signed up, filled out the forms. We've reached out with phone calls. Who do we know is coming as of today?
And if you notice, we have a big change at the kindergarten level. A lot of families are choosing to wait a year to send their kids until hopefully after this COVID thing is all done.
Kind of makes
So
sense.
We have heard that from a lot of families, so you'll see there's a big discrepancy in that number.
Okay.
So we anticipate a huge kindergarten class next year.
Yeah, and the high school is actually up a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I thought was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the 5th through 8th, it's within 10.
Yeah.
So even though we dropped close to 120,
One children.
it's not completely terrible, I feel.
We had projected that we were going to lose about 100 and, I'd have to go back to my budget document, but, so we had planned staffing wise for that.
So have we gotten from all of these, we've gotten information from all of these already? And you said, and that doesn't include the new ones that have come in this week probably? That came in like
Yeah, certainly not today's, and I would guess maybe not Friday's either, but the enrollment work that we did with that, where we asked parents to enroll, that's where we got the majority of these numbers.
Okay.
So people were
But-
wonderful about filling out that information for us.
It'll probably go up a little bit still.
Absolutely, the next 2 weeks are always big weeks for enrollment. Yep, so we'll cross our fingers, but we are watching it very carefully, and we knew that. We also, there have been we know that there's the CARES money, which we've talked about previously, but we also found out that we're eligible for some additional federal dollars, and we did find out that that can help us with staffing. When Tim and Heidi come, you're gonna see that we're encouraged by that, but because we have to go to like 50% in some of our classrooms and make some of those changes, there are additional staffing needs that we have to address as well. And so, I mean, we're just being very cautious in all of our decision-making, and we wanted to bring it to your attention tonight.
Okay, good, thank you.
If there's no other questions, the other report is the financial report, and I did want to note a couple of things. So in the general fund, you'll see fiscal year to date last year, we were at in a total of 2.82, and this year we're at 1.79. So all of the difference is mainly due to timing of payments. So last year, we paid our busing contract in July, whereas the first payment this year was made in August. We also had a large number of technology purchases last year in July, which we did not have this year. So that's part of the discrepancy, is just timing of payments. In Fund 2, you'll see we are way down, and it's mainly due to the 400 or the supplies. So we had a lot of inventory carried over from last year. Once we tried to use some of it in our lunches, but not all of it could we do in cold lunches with distance learning. So some of our inventory we were able to use without having to purchase more food. Community ed, the budget is based on had we had summer programming, which we did not have. So that is why there's such a difference there from 6.19% to 2.33 this year. And then in the construction fund, that's a little deceiving. you know, it makes it look like we paid nothing in July. In reality, we did make payments, but all of those payments are from May of 2020, so we have to book them back as payables into 1920, if that makes sense. And then I was gonna just touch on, as Lane said, so we were aware of the GEARS and the ESSER funds, and I wanted to update you that there is now this coronavirus relief funds in addition to those, approximately 1.7 million, and it can be used for operating, so cleaning supplies, masks, all that. And then as Lane said, there's a support category as well for staffing, mental health. So we're basically going to have to relook at the application that we had kind of formulated for ESSER and GEAR and see if we should apply it to those funds first, because these new funds, we can only use until December 31st. So July 1st to December 31st, and then they're gone.
And the other funds, we have 2 years to use.
Yes.
So we're going to do a little bit of changing with that now.
Mhm.
That
So
eligible.
how much additional dollars is it?
1.7 million.
1.7 million, but again, we do, because we're a title school and we help support some of the private schools in the community with that and special education as well. Some of those dollars also help to support their programming as well, so.
These funds, so ESSER, you have to take into account the non-public, but these coronavirus, there's no non-public share.
Okay.
So that is all our,
That's right.
All
That's
our money.
ours. That's right, it's the other ones
Yes.
that are, yeah.
And the coronavirus is the 1.7,
yes.
Mhm.
just for our school district for
Mhm.
for how long? 2 years?
This is only until 12/31 of 2020.
Oh, the 1.7 you have to spend by
Yes.
12/31?
Yes.
How about the busing, though? Can we use that money to help with our busing, because we have less children on our buses?
Yes, if we have additional costs. So the caveat with this is, if it was already budgeted, we cannot use these funds. And then also it has to be tied to COVID, so.
And we can't use it for staff?
We can.
Oh, we
This
can.
one we
Okay.
can, yep,
But just through December.
yes,
So we would have staffing covered through December, and that's it.
yep.
But we can do some of the technology that we've been investing in and some of the
Right.
professional development and resources to support that technology through these dollars.
So some of the items that you guys have already previously approved, and we've said we're gonna use the ESSER and GEARS funds, we're gonna shift that to this, and then hopefully these other funds will last a little bit longer for us.
Okay.
Good, thank you, Marcy.
Yeah,
Any other questions, Marcy?
So on that, we'll get a more detailed later down.
Yes.
What we're doing.
yes.
Just this last week, I asked Marcy to, there's 3 different scenarios, and so she put together a nice sheet for me where if we did scenario 1, 2, or 3, and you're right, the GEARS and the ESSER is where the dollars are different that way and how you can use them, and then the COVID virus relief funds, they're the 1.7, but then she started breaking down what we have spent in there so far, and that's certainly something that we can share with you. And as we keep adding to that so that you can see the revenue that comes in, you can also see what our expenses are. But
Yeah.
we have a lot of cleaning supplies, we have a lot of additional things. You know, even today, we were talking about that we need to get dots for on the floor every 6 feet apart. Well, we're gonna need probably thousands of those between 12 buildings, particularly in the elementaries, so that kids are standing on the little dot when they're in the hallway and so on. And so there's just expenses that, you know, we never would have incurred had it not been for this, so.
Marcy, will you have any information on the tax levy next
Yep,
month? Is
that
it-
will be next month.
Okay,
Yeah, data is due by this Friday, so I'll get some levy runs, and it'll be next board or 2 board meetings.
okay.
Excellent, good. Thank you, Marcy.
Yeah.
All right, next up, superintendent's report.
While we wait for Tim and Heidi to come in, I just have a couple of little things that I'm not going to take a lot of this time because we've been doing a lot of work to accommodate the hybrid model that I thought was really important to give you an update on. But just a couple of things. First of all, I just want to thank the board for those of you who were able to come today to the new teacher kickoff. Really nice group of teachers. It was really nice to meet them and have them join our team again. And so it was fun to be able to still social distance, but to still bring people together and let them know how important they are to the success of our school district. I wanted to talk a little bit about the week of August 31st through September 3rd. As you are all aware, we usually have just the most phenomenal kickoff week. We have our open houses, and we're having some open houses during that week, but not every school will be having open houses because of construction. We usually have that great kickoff on the Monday morning, then we moved it to Thursday. This year, we're not going to do it at all because we weren't given any days with our staff up front to help them prepare for the hybrid model that they're doing. And so we want to give our teachers as much time to do that prep work as we can. We didn't ask to start the school year late because we were a little bit concerned about the number of days because of construction. We know our year is shortened this year anyway. And we're feeling really good about where we're at. But our opening week isn't going to be all of the excitement that we've had in the past. But we do want you to watch. We're going to have a video that'll come out on September 3rd. It's just going to be a real short one, just welcoming people again. Our theme is going to be lemons, as you can tell. You know, the life gives you lemons. What are we going to do with it? So we're going to see a lot of that. And then we're going to, in the video, towards the end of it, explain who the Above and Beyond Award winners are. So I think it's going to, and that's pretty much all we're going to do on it this time, because we figured if we kept it from 30 minutes max, people will watch it. If it's longer than that, we're going to lose them anyway. And so we're going to try to keep it really short and sweet, but we're still going to tell people that we're so happy you're here and things will be back next year and we'll do it upright. The other thing that I wanted to remind before I turn it over to these two is that on September 8th at approximately 7:45, I think you all have your school where you'll be there greeting. Again, well, it's going to be different this year, not doing all the high fives and stuff, but I really appreciate the fact that you're going to be there to welcome the kids and welcome the staff and just thank them for being here. So anyway, and with that, and I'll tag team with you guys if you need at anything, but I appreciate you coming in and giving an update of the work that's been happening over the course of the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. So again, first we want to start with thanking you for your support and the continued questions. I know lots of you have been reaching out to community members, and we continue to provide clarity the best we can as these days unfold. We do need to speak our staff when we talk about teachers not being on contract. They're in the buildings and they're meeting and they're working very hard and diligently to make these plans, and they're walking right alongside of us. District administration and the building principals have been incredible. There's not a weekend that exists because these are all now full work days that people are putting in. So I believe we're very close to having everything in place. We spent today, and I'll start with early childhood. Early childhood really is the one area that's not going to change much just because there are already smaller numbers in those classes. The support staff was already there. When you look at 50% capacity, they're able to accommodate. There's mixed guidance that continues to come in regards to special education, especially birth to 3. The first option was that they were going to be able to do virtual visits and then also bring families on site. Now MDs started to put out some guidance that they might be able to meet families at the end of a driveway or a park, but that's getting lots of mixed messages. So right now our staff are planning to offer virtual or on-site here so they can get to the specialists and the providers that they need. And we'll continue to wait for that clarification to come from the Department of Ed for special education. In our K-4 models, we really have everything set. We have the number of students identified for distance learning. We're creating those learning cohorts for grade levels. So there'll be 2 to 3 certified staff that are attached to that grade level, as well as technology support and para support. So really creating opportunities for those students to have contact with certified staff and the live teaching staff. So those are getting finalized. Principals did great work on that this morning. 5th grade is also, they've been developing, they're going to have the learning cohorts for when the students, when they're in their, what would be distance learning, but they're on site. So they have academic support cohorts going into place. and finalizing kind of that distance learning team that'll take place with the fifth grade staff.
So, quick question, the staff have been provided opportunities to prepare for distance learning?
So.
Or the non-faculty, I guess?
It's been a combination. Some people have been coming in as leadership teams to plan, as well as curriculum leaders. Now, when our staff start to come back next week, that's that whole welcome back week, they're given time to do all those things.
Okay, so they haven't had it necessarily yet, but they will get it.
They're gonna get,
coming
some
up.
people have come in because they're anxious and we again have curriculum leaders that are working on that and leadership teams that have come in the buildings. Most of our principals have brought in their grade level teams already.
Okay.
So they've had grade level discussions. Again, that's optional and they get stipend for their time. What we're saying is the majority of our staff are taking advantage of those times.
Okay.
They're coming in, but we can't, again, they're not contracted. So it's just been a gift to us to see the teachers' willingness to be flexible and meet our needs.
Our curriculum groups have been very busy this summer. I would say more than half the curriculum groups in the district did something between June and really the end of July. We normally don't do curriculum writing in July, but this year, just for the sheer volume of it and the pressure to be prepared for the fall. So curriculum leaders and certain career ladder teachers and ACOMP have been in numerous times doing work to prepare things for teachers to pick up. The next step in that process is this week there'll be 2 half-day curriculum lead meetings with myself and the coordinators and the teacher leaders of the district. They will prepare the agendas for the teachers to carry forth for their course creation and their course manipulations that they'll do during Welcome Back Week so that they're prepared on day one.
Great, thank you.
So, fifth grade, is that running more similar to K through 4 now?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so they're not moving teachers as much.
So they've so the fifth grade's really looked at creating, they're creating what's called learning blocks. So they're looking at doing math and having more intensive time with the math teacher, almost 2 hour blocks, and then switching it over to the language arts. Again, so then the students aren't moving as much, nor are the teachers, and then they're gonna flip-flop those on the other days.
Okay.
So they're basically doubling up on one. Students are getting lots of direct contact then with that instructional teacher in that area. Then as well as each team is gonna have an academic learning cohort support. So the day that I'm in distance learning, so I'm in my group of 30, I have a direct support that's working with that teacher in order to support me in the learning that I'm doing technically distance on site. So they're mirroring more of that elementary schedule. However, because of their specialties, some people are focusing on math and reading, you can have that combination that we have to balance.
Okay.
And my daughter went to her open house just before I came here, and what we learned is that they aren't going to be using their lockers in the way that they have before at Forest View, so that's something I hadn't thought of, but I appreciate that thought.
There's lots of things we hadn't thought of till this year. And the interesting thing is kids have been very, like you said, they went to their open house and it's just like, okay. So I think if we can role model that, they're flexible and willing to learn. But I think that fifth grade team, their leadership team has been incredible. They really looked at how can they maximize that instructional time with those students, minimize the movement that's occurring within those teams. And then also when they put them out in their learning cohorts, the days that they're not having direct instruction, how do they still have a direct link to that teacher that's really right up the stairs or down the hall, but they're distanced to make sure that we can get that academic support to them.
So then I have another question based on what you said. So we're not going to have a distance learning teacher. We're going to have, each teacher is going to do distance learning like 1 day a week or something?
No, so there'll still be a distance learning team in Forest View to do. So we have a whole pocket of fifth graders that have chosen distance learning. I believe it's like 78. So we're going to identify staff that are specifically working with those students, and it may be a combination. Again, when you look at numbers and what we need for subject areas, that's the last piece we're still really trying to finalize is how do we make sure we get those core content areas to that DL? Because with the numbers of 78, I can't create a whole team to support distance learning. So we really have to peel off the layers for that staff. And then, of course, accommodate our staff that may have some accommodations that need to occur. So I would say fifth grade is that last piece that's coming together, but they've done an incredible job of figuring out how to maximize that time and then also support the students that are in their learning cohort in the building.
And that's the same for distance learning in K through 4 then you'll have?
Yeah, K through 4 is actually, there's a team of 2 to 3 certified staff, a para, and a tech support. So you're looking at sometimes 4, sometimes 5 people that are coming together to create that distance learning cohort for that grade level. We have a lead teacher who's really in charge of the core content, so that certified K teacher that knows the kindergarten content. Then some of it might be coming from title support or things like that. When we look at a para, then also support. So in our 3rd and 4th grade, we have about 80-ish kids. So if you really look at it, it's taking that core content instruction, but then making sure, like if Tim and I are in that team, Tim, these are your 20. You're going to be meeting directly with those students, contacting them daily. How are they doing? Where if I'm still the grade level teacher, I'm providing the content support. But we're all divided, so again, students are going to have direct access to that individual person to support them.
And that'll happen during the school day too, right?
It's going to happen during the school day. The interesting thing, and just like in distance learning, sometimes it's going to be, connecting with that teacher during a certain time. A lot of times, then if there's an instruction, it's recorded. So if I miss it, I can still go back and look. So some kids are going to be following it. We call it more synchronized schedule, not necessarily synchronized time. I'm still going to follow my schedule, but I can access it at different points.
So are you going to accommodate people who wanted the distance learning in the evening, so the parents were there?
That's so, yep. So in that distance learning cohort, just like it was this spring, all that instruction happens within a Google Classroom. So again, if a parent and student, they wanted to do that lesson and they can go right with that person during that time in a Google Hangout, that's going to happen. But any instruction I'm giving is recorded. So if I'm a working parent and I'm coming home, my students and I can log on to the Google Classroom. The lessons are still there. We can get the information. The difference in this time in distance learning cohorts, we're also going to have that additional staff to follow up, to be making that contact, to see if they need any support, if they have any additional questions, and really trying, that's why we said about 20-ish, so they're getting that person they know who to go to.
Thank you.
So,
Today, sitting there in that elementary meeting was just phenomenal because every single principal came and said, okay, these are my numbers, this is how many kids I have, this is where I think that I could share a staff member to help do this, and developing those teams of what distance learning was going to look like. It was really, really wonderful, and how sharing they were looking at it as a district rather than just at everybody's individual building, because they were looking for that really key person on each of those distance learning teams with the support that they needed that was going to be at every grade level, including tech support.
Yep, and that's where you really have to be complimentary of our staff, especially the specialist. When you look at music and Fayed and title interventionist, these are the staff we're taxing outside of their instructional areas. They are the ones that are going to potentially take on a grade level or become a key partner in a grade level cohort, either in person or distance. And they're willing, they're going to do everything they can. Again, it's not what they all signed up for. But from that standpoint, our staff are doing incredible work and just really want to do all they can to support our kids.
That's great. Thank you.
So that's elementary and early childhood.
Similarly, in 6 through 12, the work is progressing, and there's been a lot of compromising and a lot of extra hours put in. The AABB model is progressing. I think the high school is very close to having theirs laid out in the final dots some I's, cross some T's. They're looking at about 3 to 4 kids per class in distance learning. So you're seeing different patterns of who's going to distance learning at different levels. So that 3 to 4 for a class as an average, that holds up very well as a manageable structure. Okay, I don't think it's going to be an overly undue burden than it could be. The Forest View, the numbers are a little bit larger in distance learning, but they've come out as very balanced across the teams. So they're having a very good time. They're able to identify staff and slots better. They're not having to twist and bend quite as much to make that work. The teams are supporting, teams are very supportive of parceling out that distance learning pieces for those kids. I would say that really by the end of business on Wednesday, I think they'll have put the last dots on this for them. I know that I think the high school is putting out its schedule on Wednesday afternoon. So they're just in the final stages of putting that together. The BLC, by virtue of its size, like early childhood, they're not really overly affected by the space constrictions. So they're going to be able to do normal operations as pretty much as they had up to the fact that, they're very flexible in their schedule to begin with. So they'll continue, they've always done a form of distance learning in terms of an individualized learning plan for students at the alternate, or at the area learning center. So they're well primed to do this without actually too much.
And then our level 4 Lincoln Education Center, they've actually identified 2 teachers that'll be the full-time distance learning. So then the rest of the students will be in person, kind of following that regular schedule again, just because of class size and the spacing they can do. However, they made the decision that their students will stay in their classrooms. Sometimes they've switched classrooms. Staff will move to the classroom. It won't be the students within our LEC programs.
While you guys are there, do you want to talk just a little bit about the open houses next Wednesday? How they're by alphabet? And
Yeah, they're alphabetically structured. So families, please check the website or check the communication from your principal to know where you fall in the alphabet to attend. That way it preserves social distancing, but also gives us the opportunity to have families come in and see the building. I do believe that some of the sites are also running personages limitations in terms of it's a child and 1 adult to attend. So unfortunately, unlike years past, you can't bring the whole family with you. But at 1 adult and 1 child, happy to start the introduction of the school year.
Is that this week or next?
No, it'll be next week, probably.
Except for kindergarten was this week.
Kindergarten was OS testing in kinder camp. Kinder camp was this week, OS testing was last week. The open houses, I believe, are on
Wednesday, the
Wednesday.
second.
The elementary ones are on Wednesday, and the secondaries are usually on Tuesday.
Right.
So,
And then 5th grade orientation is going on this week.
yep.
We've kind of broken them out too, to make sure we can space them and get them in there.
Amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lane, anything else? You're,
That's it.
okay? Any other business come before the board? If not, how about a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.